Here we are, friends. We've reached the 5th Sunday of November. In other words, welcome to the end of gratitude. In about 28 minutes. As most of you know, I've spent 2025 battling a very aggressive form of prostate cancer. As we conclude our month of reflections on gratitude, I want to share a bit about what I've learned about nurturing gratitude in the face of adversity while battling cancer. Now, I know there are persons besides me at Merging Waters who have also faced cancer very directly, either in your own person or in someone you dearly love. Each cancer journey is its own unique collision of hope and fear, learning and loss. Each journey presents unexpected joys, unimaginable fractures of meaning, and heartbreak in a million ways, some small, some large, some altogether shattering. My reflections are rooted in my own experience. I'm not trying to sum up cancer journeys in general, but we all face adversities and in forms far beyond cancer. So I hope that from wherever in life you're listening, you glean something worthy in my words. Also, I'm a relative newcomer to the Cancer Club. Frankly, it's likely that in the coming years, my journey will contain chapters more harrowing than the ones I've faced so far. So I share these reflections with a healthy measure of humility. Still, I hope what I've learned over this first year living with cancer will help me as I meet that uncertain future. I could tell my story in many ways. I've chosen two themes to help both of us, you and me, see the patterns. First, sometimes we make choices that help us find gratitude, and sometimes others make choices that help gratitude find us. Second, I didn't plan to use our congregation's core values as an organizing device, but as I reflected on my year, I kept encountering echoes of authentic curiosity, mindful interdependence, and courageous love. So you'll hear them today. The first notice of my cancer appeared in a blood test last October, followed by a consultation with a urologist last November. But nothing was certain. Both my primary care physician and the urologist assured me that while the lab result merited further testing, it did not mean I had cancer. So, of course, Margaret and I both clung to the hope that it wasn't cancer, until it was. Last year, on December 29th, Margaret and I co-hosted our end-of-the-year service right here. We called it community-driven worship, sort of an open mic around the theme of being on edge. It was our last service of 2024, and we were on the threshold between 2 years and 2 presidents. I described it as a liminal season, suspended between a vanishing now and a very uncertain next. Ironically, Margaret and I were co-hosting that liminality most personally that day. Earlier in the morning, before we gathered here with you, we'd gone for an MRI, the first of 2 procedures that would confirm my cancer diagnosis. We were both on edge as we gathered here, though in different ways. About an hour before the service, I saw the MRI report appear in my chart, and I glanced at it. The results were highly suspicious of cancer. But I didn't want to unsettle Margaret right before the service, so for the moment I kept that news to myself. That day in our service, I learned what a gift it is to be part of a community willing to be so authentically and honestly on edge together. Neither you nor I knew at the time just how much or how soon I'd need that. But I still remember Terry singing Both Sides Now during the service and knowing I was among my people. I learned a second thing later that day when I shared the results of my MRI with Margaret. We didn't know exactly what it meant. We wouldn't meet with our urologist for a week, but we knew it wasn't the news we'd been hoping for. We were indeed suspended between a vanishing now and a very uncertain next. And yet, as we held hands in the stillness, side by side on our sofa, I learned the gift of a spouse who would be with me every step of the way. In January, first a biopsy and then a PET scan gave me a definitive cancer diagnosis. Despite hearing the words high risk at the time, I didn't realize how serious it was. I had 2 uncles and 2 cousins in my family, all 10 years on the far side of surgery for prostate cancer, and they were all doing fine. Plus, my urologist told me, don't worry. He would surgically remove the prostate, and while yes, there was a real possibility of recurrence in the future, in the short term, my life could get back to normal. I now realize normal isn't coming back. Over January and February, I made 2 crucial choices that helped me nurture gratitude. First, I shared my diagnosis with family and friends, including during joys and sorrows right here. I was blanketed with deep compassion. My decision to be vulnerable opened me to the care of others, and having a circle of care around me from the beginning has made all the difference. Second, I began to recount my cancer journey on my blog. Each of us has unique gifts and skills. Words are foremost among mine. Leaning into my adversity through words allowed me to meet the cancer on my strongest terms. Authentic curiosity became a discipline. I followed it wherever it led me. Initially, as I described on my blog the various procedures I underwent, that curiosity paid me back in wonder. Later, it would pay me back in fear, but I am grateful for both because at some point the fear was necessary as I came to terms with the full scope of my diagnosis. In early March, my prostate was surgically removed, in fact, at the earliest date possible after my biopsy. That should have alerted me to the urologist's sense of urgency. Instead, I put my stock in his continued calm reassurance everything would be fine. Spoiler, it wasn't. My biggest anxiety about the surgery itself was the slim but real possibility that something could go wrong. I might not wake up. This wasn't my first surgery, but it was my most significant, and I didn't want to leave anything to chance. So on the day before my surgery, I hand-wrote 11 short, just-in-case letters to my dad and 2 sisters, to each of my 6 children, to my dear friend Tatiana, and to my beloved Margaret. I mailed 10 of them that afternoon. I set Margaret's letter on her pillow the morning we left for surgery, so she'd find it when she came home that night. There is no shortage of people I love dearly, but I couldn't write to them all. These were the people that, should anything go wrong, I wanted to make sure they received a last word of love from me. I came through surgery just fine, but it was an exercise in gratitude and courageous love to write those letters, and to this day I'm glad I did. The day before surgery, Katie texted she was taking my surgery day off to keep Margaret company at the hospital. Byron joined her a bit later. Their presence to Margaret while I was in surgery and then to me in the hospital room when I woke up afterwards was an immeasurable gift. I mean, sure, their family, Katie and I are cousins, but this was next level family. Unasked, just offered. Our gratitude ran deep. I came home the next day and slept all afternoon on the sofa with our two cats, Ozzy and Zoe, perched atop me on the blanket. They're friendly cats, but it's rare for them to climb on us and lie down. Somehow they knew I needed gentle care, and somehow my gratitude learned to reach across species. Over the next week, a whole series of friends, including several from Merging Waters, kept us supplied with fresh meals. That's mindful interdependence with meat on it. Well, for us, it was plant-based meat, no egg or dairy, and gluten-free. We were gratefully well-fed. Our two young adult Brazilian housemates happily covered my physical household duties, so our experience of interdependence went international as well. For the rest of March, through the first half of June, we waited. It wouldn't be until June 16th that we'd get our first rush of relief at my first post-surgery lab test to confirm the cancer was gone. During those months of waiting, I participated in a Stanford University mind-body study about using your mindset to make a difference in your cancer journey. It proved to be a good opportunity for me to grow in appreciation of my own intrinsic capacity to leverage inner strengths in meeting cancer. That was especially important because that mid-June rush of relief never came. Instead, the June lab test confirmed the persistence of cancer after surgery. In barely 12 minutes, my urologist told us the surgery had not succeeded, my cancer was still there and aggressive. He explained that radiation treatment and hormone treatment were in my very near future, and oh, have a nice day, bye. Margaret and I were floored and fearful. We'd braced ourselves for the possibility of disappointing news, but not for devastating news. We entered another liminal season, an unsettling in-between time. Over the next several weeks, I met the hard gratitude that comes from following authentic curiosity to bitter conclusions whose only redeeming value is their truth. I was not happy with what I learned about the depth of my disease or the equally perilous course of treatment I was being rushed into. Here, in a nutshell, is what I discovered. 85% of prostate cancer is considered medically manageable. 15%, deemed high risk or very high risk, is aggressive, unpredictable, eager to metastasize, and particularly hungry for bone, from whence it is often deadly. My cancer was rated very high risk, an apex predator among prostate cancers. It was at this point that I became grateful for the word fuck, because nothing else captured my visceral sense of lostness. That lostness deepened as I read up on the proposed treatment, a testosterone-blocking drug given as a 6-month time-release injection. It would hopefully freeze the cancer's growth while radiation took a swipe at it. But the drug had a host of potential side effects with no off-ramp for the 6 months it would last, and my urologist was recommending 24 months of this as if it were no big deal. Besides instantly canceling my libido, it was likely to slowly weaken my bones, trade muscle for fat, stress my heart and liver, fuel sometimes debilitating fatigue, play havoc with my brain chemistry, and potentially disfigure my male genitalia and give me breasts in exchange. Gratitude was sparse indeed in June and July. It arrived in unexpected moments of companionship. Knowing I was going to visit my dad for a few days, Roger Peck, who has lived with prostate cancer far longer than I, came by my house to give me a book as a gift before I left. On the 8-hour drive to Indiana, I listened to hours of prostate cancer podcasts. Once there in Indiana, I read the book from Roger and spent hours reading online anecdotes of men who'd walked this path of hormone therapy before me. Their vulnerability made mine bearable. Very little of what they said was comforting, but I was grateful for their willingness to speak their truth, even when it was spoken as lament. When I voiced my fears to my dad, he responded with quiet solidarity and respect. No stranger to health challenges himself, he said that if I chose to do radiation but not hormone treatment, he could understand why and would support that decision. Ultimately, I chose to do a testosterone blocker. 2, in fact, but that choice was easier to make, knowing that both my dad and Margaret would have honored any choice I made. They trusted both the learning and the inner wrestling I was doing. I came back from Indiana determined to more aggressively self-advocate regarding my cancer care. For the next several weeks, my gratitude had an edge to it. I canceled the appointment I'd made 2 weeks earlier to get my initial 6-month testosterone blocking shot. I started walking in earnest, aiming to average 10,000 steps a day. Based on the book Roger gave me, I disciplined my eating habits to maximize my health. I mapped out my own routine of supplements to support my body's ability to fight cancer. Then, even before I'd ordered any, I received a box of supplements in the mail, another gift from Roger. In a sense, I became both curious about what my body was capable of and mindfully appreciative of how plant medicines were part of the interdependent web, willing to support me if I invited them. I searched for a medical oncologist to get more thorough information about hormone treatment and for an integrative oncologist who could guide my use of supplements. I found an integrative oncologist whose profile identified love as her driving passion. She celebrated my commitment to empower my own body, and she has guided my diet and supplement choices for the past 4 months. Now relocating to Atlanta, at our final appointment, she said, "David, I can no longer be your doctor, but now I will be your friend." I found a medical oncologist who described her joy in offering not just medical care, but human care for patients. Soon into our consultation, she stated I could not be her patient because she only worked with persons whose cancer had fully metastasized. My cancer, though potentially deadly, had not moved beyond my pelvic lymph nodes. Still, and this was among the most astonishing graces I received all year, she spent an entire hour with me and Margaret, listening with full presence not only to my concerns and fears, but also to my hopes and passions. She referred me to a new urologist who she felt could better address my specific hesitations around hormone treatment. She said he'd have the expertise to advise my treatment choices and the appreciation of my intellect to engage me in generous conversation as I weighed my options. She was right. He was also a faculty member at the U, and when Margaret and I met with him, his gifts as a teacher were quickly evident. He explained my cancer with brutal, caring honesty. helping me finally recognize just how much of a wall I was backed up against, with no easy options in front of me. Avoiding hormone therapy was a near suicidal choice. But he heard my concerns and affirmed my self-advocacy for a newer testosterone blocker, a daily pill rather than a 6-month injection. Still the prospect of unsettling side effects, but at least the security of an immediate off-ramp should I need it. He showed me the research indicating that while my odds were long in any scenario, they were best if I combined radiation with hormone treatment. It was not the news I wanted to hear, but the news I needed to hear. I left that consultation with bitter but boundless gratitude for his uncompromising care for my whole person. Next, I met with a radiation oncologist, also a medical school faculty member. Her credentials were impeccable, of course, but I chose her because in her profile, she named kindness as central to her understanding of quality care. It was another brutally honest conversation. She had already reviewed my file meticulously. She knew my disease, my doctors, my reservations about hormone treatment. She explained that her treatment plan for me would have curative intent, but the simple fact that my cancer had already reached my lymph nodes meant that the chance for a true cure was all but nil. Nevertheless, her goal would be to push my cancer below detectable levels for 5 years, maybe longer. And who could say what new treatments might appear during that time? Moreover, who could say what time I might relish with Margaret, my children, or grandchildren during those years? This is some fierce gratitude. To be thankful for the person who says to you with kind honesty, I probably can't save you, but I can perhaps slow the course of your cancer, and I can do so while honoring who you are, so that if a day comes when the testosterone blockers become too much to bear, I will support you in setting them aside and finding ways to give you the best care that fits with the deepest values in your life. Then she added, by the way, there's some exciting new research suggesting you can delay metastasis and extend your long-term survival by adding a second testosterone blocker this early in your treatment. That's your decision, but I'd encourage you to meet with a colleague of mine who's a brilliant medical oncologist to discuss this option. To make a long story short, I did, and I am. In September, I started on 2 testosterone blockers, persuaded that despite the risks, this offers me the best chance to get the best results from my treatment. The fact that I went from being ready to reject hormone therapy altogether to embracing it reflects rugged curiosity that learned hard truths. It reflects the interdependence I found in my chosen medical team and in the constant care of family and friends, and the courageous love that manifests itself in my own strong self-advocacy in a medical model almost designed to disempower. October and November have been marked by 7 weeks of daily radiation treatment on weekdays, growing fatigue as the radiation that aims to kill my cancer also exhausts the rest of my body, and a string of unexpected gifts. Radiation fatigue is weariness that you can't sleep off or rest away. It clings to me all day long. For a month now, my days are stitched together by deep sighs, extended pauses, and long hugs. It's not exactly or entirely physical weariness. Yes, it takes extra work to climb the stairs, but I still manage 10,000 steps a day, though with decidedly less spring in each step. It includes a psychic or soul weariness. My attention is tired all the time. My sense of being productive has largely come to a halt. Granted, I managed to write this message, which I finished at 3 a.m. this morning, and a blog post, and a couple pretty amazing poems, but that's about all I have to show for the past 2 months. I know I've been getting cancer care, yet even in my weariness, I've been restless and helpless to do more, which is where those unexpected gifts come in, arriving just as my fatigue has been cresting. My friend Rebecca tagged me in a Facebook post in late October showing a regional training event in Iowa by More Light, the Presbyterian LGBTQ welcoming program. They were showing people how to use a Reader's Theater script in building congregational welcome. It was one of 10 such scripts that I wrote about 15 years ago, and here they were, still building welcome today. Soon after, I received a message from Amalia, a longtime friend, now a pastor in Arizona. She told me how profound my 2013 children's book, When God Was a Little Girl, has been in her ministry, helping expand God images for the children in her congregation. And just a few days after that, I received an email from Holly, whom I only know virtually. We both participate in monthly Zoom meetings as congregational connectors with Moose Jaw. She's a seminary student at United, and she wrote to share with me the slideshow she'd made for a final project in one of her classes. It was about a pilgrimage she'd made to Prague in the Czech Republic. She explained she was inspired to do this project by my blog post about Norbert Čapek and the First Flower Communion. I am so tired these days, unable to do much at all to make the world a better place. And it is as though the universe has conspired to remind me that my good work in the past still echoes across time, generating more goodness again and again, even while my afternoons are given to naps. And as I look around this room, the gratitude echoes everywhere. I think of all the times that so many of you checked in with me before or after a service. Those of you who've shared about your own cancer journey. I remember a long, gracious lunch conversation with Reverend Krista in which we discussed the deep questions of theology and personal identity posed not just by cancer, but also by hormone treatments that play havoc with both body and mind. Truly, each of you is part of the gratitude I've found, or that's found me, this past year. But listen, even at 26 minutes, I've barely told the half of it. You look up at the night sky on a clear, dark night, and the constellations leap out at you. But if you hold your gaze and let your eyes adjust, you realize that these constellations are set against a backdrop of countless stars. And so it is for me. Over these long months of making my way into this uncertain, unchosen journey that is cancer, I can set some of the choices I've made and some of the gifts I've received into constellations of a sort. But even these are set against a backdrop of countless more. Here is the final lesson I've learned. Ultimately, gratitude is not tied to outcomes. Because here is a hard truth. Even knocked on its ass by hormone therapy and radiation, My cancer still dreams about living its best life in my bones. And while there will hopefully be some sweet victories and restful reprieves in my journey, good news will not likely get the last word. But gratitude can. Yes, I am grateful right now for the prospect of more life, but finally, gratitude is not about being grateful for something. It is the invitation to be unconditionally grateful, period. This is still a mystery to me. I sense the truth of it most days, but I won't claim to know it from the inside. Maybe someday, but not yet. I do understand now that we are, all of us and in every moment, entirely vulnerable. Cancer drove that home for me, but it was true all along. The grace I am coming to know is this, that it is possible to be mutually vulnerable, to be authentically and humbly curious about one another, to be mindfully and reverently aware of our interdependence, and to be courageous in our love. This is what saves us, not by keeping us safe, but by keeping us cared for, and in that sense, keeping us human and keeping us whole. May it be so for all of us, indeed.
Join us in singing hymn number 18 in the gray hymnal, What Wondrous Love. As before, we will have song leaders here. People at home will be muted and can sing along. Please rise in body or spirit to join our song.